My name is Trevor. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. Currently, I'm the director of pastoral ministries at a rather large parish in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I'm responsible for the coordination and oversight of 3 ministry areas. That includes our justice and peace, our pastoral care, and initiative on wellness. And we also have our marriage and baptism preparation under this area. So besides the overall visioning and planning of those 3 areas and day-to-day management, I'm also, with my fellow staff, responsible to invite our parishioners into a deeper walk with Jesus and help them discern where their gifts are best used in serving our church. I see, I'm someone that I'm not very old by age perhaps, but also my whole life has been working for the church. And so I think in some ways, I think about my life kind of stumbling into this line of work as opposed to that I dreamt it ahead of time. I grew up in a military family and didn't really have a sense of home. And so for me, in many ways, my calling and my life in the church has been around this metaphor of home. Growing up, my mother worked for the church or volunteered and also was employed by the church. And so I spent a lot of time around the church. And so sometimes living overseas, we would hang out at the church, and I felt very at home there, very comfortable. It was a real place. It was a place that was familiar. It was a natural place to know who I am. And I think that as I went to college and kind of began to think about what I wanted to do with my life and my own questions, church always became a place that I could bring my questions. It was a place that was friendly to my questions, friendly to my searchings. I'm a searcher, I'm a questioner, I'm someone that has deep passions and longings, and those always don't find sometimes a home in some ways, but in other ways I've actually found a place to bring all of that, and I found people that have nurtured that and questioned me and challenged me, and so I feel like it's been a space where a call has emerged because it's been friendly to my questions and searchings. I spent a number of years, 4 years in a seminary, 3 years in a seminary, and then a couple years in a graduate program in Franciscan studies. And so I think those 5 years that I spent also was almost an apprenticeship in this spiritual and, if you will, professional way of life, way of being. And so in some ways I don't know what to do beyond this. I have worked at a parish level, I've worked at a high school level, I've worked at a college level, and now I'm back at a parish level. So I think my answering to this call has been in many ways in different places, but always feeling like what I'm about is creating spaces for other people to encounter God. And I think that's the other thing. I really feel like God's active in people's lives, but for most of us, in our own day-to-day, we don't experience that presence. And so I really find it a gift to be part of people's lives and then administratively helping structure spaces for people to experience God's love and grace moving and working and active in their lives. Yeah, I have a family. I have three young kids, and so in some ways that's a lot to add to already ministry life, which is full. However, I think it's also the thing that keeps me focused and grounded so that the ministry life in some ways stays in balance, because what I really feel God is calling me to do is really care for the family and be with the family and be a good father and husband. So that's very sustaining in some counterintuitive way, and it also reminds me, puts in perspective what my work is about. But I also would say that obviously, there's more embodied prayer that I feel like my own walk is really important. So I would say things like gardening, or I've raised animals, or running, or cooking, things that slow me down, things that put me in my body, things that help me pay attention to the way that God's working in my life. I think that those things are in some ways what sustains me in this, keeps me going. I also have a lot of hope, I think, for what even among my own generation or younger folks, I think the hungers that brought me into the church and keep me in the church are present in young people, and so in all people, I think all times of all people. So I really feel that if we can have people in the church that are able to ask those kinds of questions and provide the kind of spaces that people offered me, I think I have hope that the church can be a place where people come to find that. I think if you're being called to ministry, you're probably already in the church in some way. You don't sometimes get these calls far away in some land distant from the church or from ministry. So if you're already doing ministry work, I think to recognize it as a viable professional option. And I think that sometimes is a hurdle, and sometimes we as a church don't do enough to make it professionally viable for young people, particularly to see their track as this as a way of life. So when I was working at college, we spent a number of really concerted efforts to really help young people see that they are the future of the church and that their voices and gifts are needed. And so I think it's helpful for them to see that could be a career or a professional track. And I think that is an important thing. I also think that the joys that come forth from almost orchestrating, or it's almost I see it more of it as an artistic image of creating these spaces for people to experience God. There's nothing more beautiful than that, and I think nothing more humbling than being part of people's lives where they come face to face with the holy.